Hello North Point. Welcome to today's life group video. We've got some very exciting key notices today before we jump into Genesis chapter 36 and looking at the descendants of Esau. And that wonderful announcement is that we're going to be having the grand opening of our newly renovated and rebuilt kids facility. That's going to be taking place next week, Sunday, the 1st of June. So don't stay away from that service. It really is something to celebrate how far we've come on this project, and with the goal to have a kids facility that's used throughout the week and on weekends to the glory of God. And it's a wonderful thing. So come along to our grand opening of that kids facility next week, Sunday, the 1st of June. And then also major announcement is, and this is one of our major focuses for the year, it's going to be our gospel partnerships time, which will kick off on the 27th of June. That's coming up. Lots of ways to get excited. You can go to the sessions for your equipping. You can book to be a part of those. And also we'll be hosting international guests. We'll be involved in an outreach into Zandspruit. So very exciting. Please keep a lookout for that starting very soon, 27th of June. It's around the corner. And you can look for ways to get involved. We'd love for all of North Point to be involved in this vital gospel partnerships week. We've seen so much fruit from it in our own lives and in the nations of the world. So it's something that we can wholeheartedly look forward to and get involved with. Let's jump in with Genesis chapter 36. In this chapter, we see very tragically that Esau abandons the promises and the people of God and embraces the ways of the people living in the land, and so a nation of his descendants is lost. Really is a tragic chapter and a tragic arc in the life of Esau, coming from the very patriarchs, being in the line of Abraham and Isaac, and growing up with Jacob, and then straying so far from God's promises and God's people. Maybe we can pause and read Genesis chapter 36, and it might be a good idea to divide the verses up among your group, and you'll see why. Go ahead and read Genesis chapter 36. So well done to everybody who got through those names. And pronunciation isn't the most important thing, but let's see what life-giving truth we can pull from this chapter. And I believe that the question before us from this chapter is, will you embrace the world and its kingdoms, or will you embrace God's promised king, the hope of nations, and pursue his presence? Will you embrace Jesus, or will you embrace the things of the world? That's the question that's open to all of us to answer, is, are we embracing God, or are we living for the things of this world? And so some application questions that you can discuss in your groups today. Firstly, the life of Esau, it marks a turning point in his generation of abandoning God's promises and ways. And then we see the next generations of his family line, they followed that trajectory for hundreds of years, eventually being so lost, so consumed with the things of this world, and even hostile to the people of God. So my first question for discussion is, how can we be a generation that doesn't abandon God, but rather a generation that stands united with our God and embraces his ways? What would such a generation look like? A generation that unites with God, that passionately embraces God's King Jesus and his ways. What would be the fruit of an intentional church rooted in God's promises? What would be the fruit if we as a generation stood up passionately and intentionally and lived all out, cleaving to, embracing the things of God rather than abandoning them as Esau did? This is a question that gets me excited, is how can we as a generation be one that roots out sin, that doesn't compromise, that is passionate and separate from the things of the world, living for the kingdom of God. My second question is, as Esau abandoned, the people and the promises of God, really he was abandoning God's presence. He was moving out from the presence of the Lord, and he became exactly like the people in the land. He became exactly like the people of Seir. His values, the same as the values of the people living there for generations to come, valuing the same thing as every other nation apart from God. And I'm reminded that later Moses said what would separate Israel from the other nations in the world would be God's presence. In Exodus 33 verse 14, Moses is engaging with God, he's interacting with God, and God says, my presence will go with you and I will give you rest. And Moses said to him, if your presence will not go with me, do not bring us up from here, for how shall it be known that I found favor in your sight, I and your people? Is it not in your going with us, so that we are distinct, I and your people, from every other people on the face of the earth? And the Lord said to Moses, this very thing that you have spoken I will do, for you have found favor in my sight, and I know you by name. So the question for discussion here is, how is God present with us as his people? There are many ways, many verses which speak of God being with us. In what ways is he present with us? How is God present with his people today? And how can we cherish his presence? How can we as the people of God cherish his presence rather than abandoning his presence like Esau did? And then the last question, when looking at a genealogy and seeing how truth is passed from one generation to the next, or truth is abandoned from one generation to the next, friends, this must give us pause. We want to be surely those who are passing truth to the next generation, not abandoning it as the generations progress. So the last question is, in what way can we ensure that the generations following us live passionately for God and for the gospel? In what way can we ensure that the generations following us live passionately for God and for the gospel? I hope there's some fruitful discussion in your groups. Have some fun with it, and that's all for now. All the best in your discussions, and God bless you. All the best.